You're listening to the Relevance Hour, the podcast where purpose-driven leadership and bold ideas bring more impact and relevance. Join André Wiringa and Dennis Drosser as they talk to inspiring leaders, disruptors, and change makers, redefining how we learn, lead, and interact. Get ready for stories, insights, and conversations that keep you ahead and always relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Relevance Hour podcast, a space where relevance and leadership come together to transform the way people learn, lead, and interact. I'm André Wiringa, and today we're diving into one of the most game-changing leadership qualities, empowerment. What does it truly mean to empower others? And how do leaders create environments where team members take ownership, feel trusted, and simply thrive, both professionally and personally? To help us unpack, I'm thrilled to welcome a very special guest and a good friend to join me on this podcast. He's a visionary entrepreneur who's redefining the hospitality industry by empowering people not to just stay somewhere, but to belong. Here's the co-founder of Zoku Hotels, a hybrid living and working concept that's been recognized globally for innovation and creating community. Hans Meyer, welcome to the Relevance Hour.
Thank you.
So, empowerment for you, Hans. Let's just dive straight into it. How would you describe true empowerment?
Empowerment is creating the conditions for others to succeed so that they basically get the tools and the means, but most of all the trust that they can take decisions themselves.
And if you go back in time, have you seen leaders that lacked empowerment?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially all the leadership styles, they are far more about control, I think. I think all of us have managed maybe a leader who wanted to be fully in control. And at that time when I was much younger, I didn't feel very motivated. So I can imagine it's the other way around as well. We talk a lot about empowerment from leadership to teams, but I think it's even more interesting to talk the other way around. I mean, start reverse, basically.
I like that concept.
I thought so.
Hey, Hans, I recognize what you're saying. Not everybody is as successful as they could be or maybe should be in empowering others. What is the struggle they have? Why are they afraid to let go?
What I think is that often leaders feel that they are valued about the amount of decisions they take. So if they don't take any more decisions, they feel they are less valued as a leader. And I think that's a kind of a wrong mindset. I feel that people find it difficult to let go control because control gives you a kind of autonomy also as a leader, but at the same time, it's not effective.
Did you have moments in your career that you empowered others and were disappointed that they were not picking it up, that they would not take, let's say, the opportunity to grow?
Yeah, of course, but I think it's also part of that's part, I think, of the process. Sometimes people take it on very seriously. Other times people don't take it on, but that can also be a different cause behind it. It can be, for example, that people are insecure about it or they don't know how to do it. So still empowerment is not just throwing something over the fence, but it's also supporting people to make sure that they can succeed.
Totally. It's more like dumping, right? Throwing over the fence. Some people confuse delegating with empowerment.
Exactly.
And I think delegating is, you can delegate tasks, but empowering people really means you're setting them up for success. You're enabling them to do stuff, and you have to guide that. On the other hand, so we talked about where you were disappointed. Can you share moments or situations where you actually felt like blown away by the impact that your empowerment had on others, that people really surprised the shit out of you? Like, I had no idea that these people could do that.
Yeah. I think there are many examples. I mean, especially when you are part of a growing company, at some point, there's just too much going on. It's a necessity to empower people. And I think one of the examples, so if you look to Zoku Amsterdam, I was involved in every single design decision, I would say. With regards, for example, Zoku Paris, the latest one, basically the amazing team made all the decisions. And of course, then sometimes, as a leader, you also have to get used to that because I was used to control everything and it was also my instinct to make decisions right away. But I think if you really want to create expertise in your company, you have to give other people the opportunity to grow as well. And that means you have to step back.
Yeah. What was the hard part?
The hard part is sometimes people make decisions that you would have taken differently, and then you just need to sit still and you need to trust. And you might need to ask the question, is this because I would do it in a different way because that's familiar to me? Or is this maybe even a better way or a worse way?
Love it. That's so nice and so insightful. If you turn it around, I mean, thinking of like pleasant surprises that was not hard, you let go and something magical happens. What can you think of? Who surprised you and when did they surprise you?
I think Veerle, who's our concept and brand director, she already works with Zoku for quite a long time. And I think she really grew into her role, and we worked side by side, but now she works completely autonomous. And I think it's also a great reward as a leader that you see other people taking the stage and picking it up and making the big decisions within the company.
And are you seeing a way already that, for instance, Veerle or other leaders are passing that on, like you being that first ball in the cradle, you passing on energy into your system that you're creating and it's being passed on? Is that happening?
Yeah, ultimately, you want to just make sure that's part of the culture. I think what is also interesting, if you look, for example, to our sidekicks, our frontline employees, what you feel is that our guests who actually stay with us, they want some sort of authenticity. And that means you are not going to script everything. You just make sure that you've shared values within the company, you have a kind of a shared vision. And within those shared values, take care of a very solid foundation in the company and also culture. And then you don't need to script it, and people just can perform in a very authentic way.
And you're calling the talent sidekicks. Why is that?
Well, the original definition of a sidekick is a personal assistant or a confidant, somebody like a friend. And given the fact that people stay at Zoku more longer than a few days or even few weeks, what we actually see happening is that the guest and the sidekicks actually become friends. There's still a kind of a professional distinction, of course, but they are, if you see how they connect and how they talk with each other, you could even imagine they are friends. And that's also, I think, one of the things that people like actually when they stay for longer periods at Zoku.
Beautiful. And you're talking a lot about empowering your sidekicks, your talents, your leaders. But I know you a little bit longer than average. I know that you also started Zoku for empowering communities, empowering your guests. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
The interesting thing is I always try to make a comparison with a house. So if you suppose you have a house, you get a kind of a party, you invite friends over, you introduce them to each other. And what I always like if people feel some sort of at home. And at home, that means that also guests have a kind of an autonomy or they have some sort of control about the experience. And in Zoku, people actually are part of the experience. You also see, for example, that members who work with us on a daily basis, they even step in when our sidekicks are busy to help guests.
Amazing.
Or we have guests staying with us and they even serve together with our chefs and prepare the big buffet for our guests because the woman who I'm talking about is an Indian chef. So you see the distinction between guests and staff is actually going to be disappearing.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
What does it say about you and your partner that this is happening, that you're empowering this? What is your dream, really, if you go in the long future?
What a dream is, I mean, there are certain things important when in your 20s. Your own role is important, your career is important, but especially when you grow older, you also start to realize that it's time to basically put other people in front of you. And I think that's a very natural process as a leader. It's also a very rewarding process as a leader because actually within Zoku we have people coming in as trainees and they're now in senior positions. And it was fantastic to be part of this growth journey, which, like I said in the beginning, is only possible if you really trust people to do their best work and also to help them and to support them and to give them the right tools in the right environment.
What do you find easy in doing that and what do you find challenging?
I think easy, is basically giving the decision power. What is difficult is that you don't know always whether you give the right support. Because what happens if people are empowered, they also want to perform.
Right.
And I also tell people also it's also good to ask for help. That's also, I think, a very important part. It's also part of trust. I mean, trust is for me something that I could tell you, let me know where I can help you. But trust is also the other way around, when you dare to ask me for help. And sometimes, of course, people are in positions, they are maybe not senior enough yet to be in that position. So they go through a very steep learning curve, and you need to be there and support them. And every now and then I find it difficult. Do I give the right support or enough support?
Beautiful. If you go back asking, let's say, for help, how is that for you? Are you good in asking for help?
Well, I think it depends on what kind of question you would ask. I'm very good in asking for help at the beginning of Zoku. So we were very good at asking people, what frustrates you when you're living and working internationally? What do you miss most? But I think other areas might be a little bit more difficult. But generally, the reason I think why Citizen and Zoku are here is because we got so much help from the many people who supported us. So I think I can do that pretty well.
And we talked about in the previous podcast about vulnerability. To what extent do you feel vulnerability is important when empowering others?
I think that as a leader, I mean, it's very important to realize that you're a kind of an example. And if you never ask for help, or you never tell somebody that you actually don't know, because everybody thinks that the leaders, they know everything. Well, I can tell you that's absolutely not true. And if you speak that out, I think that's a great way of also showing that you as a leader are vulnerable as well. I think vulnerable is a very strong point. It's absolutely not a weakness, although it's every now and then perceived like that.
No, I think you're right. It's making you a stronger leader and a better leader.
Yeah. How's that with you?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, being vulnerable is making, let's say, a statement like "I was wrong" is crucial. Making a statement like "I feel I failed in this and I need your help," I think only makes you stronger. And at the same time, appreciating and celebrating the success of others is crucial. I like it to see you can spell "I am power" with an A and an E. I am.
Oh, yeah.
Power,
Yeah.
which is the traditional view. Like I work with so many leaders that feel that when they empower with an E, they lose power.
Yeah.
Whereby it's really the opposite. And I mean, and I think we both have seen through the years that really makes a difference. So when was the last time when you chose to empower someone, even though it would have been way easier to do it yourself? You would have done it better, faster, probably with a better financial outcome, and you still delegated or you still empowered somebody else to do it?
I cannot think about one particular example, but I do it many times where I feel that, I mean, I ask somebody, what do you think? Although I already made up my opinion, but I'm holding my opinion in front of me, so I'm not sharing that with somebody. I also feel that that person should take that or that decision, which I also am not going to tell, because that's part of, I think, the growth journey that somebody has. That doesn't mean that my idea of my decision was the best. I mean, totally not. But I feel there's a kind of distinction between making sure that people grow, and the most important thing then is starting by asking, what do you think? Instead of just making the decision yourself.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated.
And some people would interpret empowerment as service recovery, right? So you're empowered, so something goes south in the hotel and you're empowered to compensate up to a certain level. I think that service recovery and maybe is a minimal part of empowerment. True empowerment is really about what we discussed earlier, setting up people for success, enabling them, making sure that they can thrive. How do you see that? What kind of, I mean, do you see that people get the concept of recovery or the full empowerment, or is it depending on who you're talking to?
Well, what I learned so far with regards to service recovery, I mean, in our industry, things go wrong. Where people work, things go wrong. So also with Zoku, every now and then make a mistake, or we have to go into the process of service recovery. What I always tell people, do whatever it takes to make that person happy. I said, don't give away a car, but within boundaries, please do so. And what I learned over the years is that people still find it difficult because maybe they're not used that they get all the freedom to make it up. At the end of the day, I feel that if somebody takes the opportunity to complain, that is a huge opportunity to create a kind of a loyal guest. And especially the way how you solve it, if you take that person seriously, but also if you're prepared to make up for it, I think is a very strong point. So I keep on saying that to our teams, please feel free to do so. And maybe sometimes it's a little bit too much, but it doesn't need to be perfect. As long as the guest is happy, we should have a kind of a conversation about any possibility that we have in order to make up for it.
And in that light, I know you created the Zoku print. To what extent is it helping you to let go, to empower your leaders to lead in the way of the common north that you define together, and your sidekicks to actually deliver that experience, bring that experience to life?
I think the two things fundamental for empowerment, first of all, is trust. But secondly, referring to what you say, it's about clarity. So you have to create clarity within a company. That's, for example, the blueprint that you're referring to is a great tool for us to create a kind of the boundaries or the guardrails within where people are fully empowered to do whatever it takes.
So empowerment within a framework.
I think that's also something which is very nice for the people who are actually empowered, that they have clarity. Within which boundaries can I just do my work in the best possible way?
Got it. Makes so much sense. Hey, and Hans, if I'm a listener right now or a viewer and I think, man, I want to up my game in terms of empowerment, and I'm simply not there yet, what practical tips, like 3 practical tips, could you give them to start doing tomorrow?
I think the first thing what you could do is to ask people, what do you think? Instead of making the decision. I think it's a very nice way in South Africa from Nelson Mandela. At one point I learned a lesson from one of his books where he explained that the tribe leader is the last person to speak. So he listened first to all the different people and then he's the last person to answer. And I think a lot of leaders, me included, need to get used to shut up and to ask other people what do they think. So that would be my first tip. Second tip is to publicly give somebody the responsibility for a task and that he or she leads that task. And the third thing I would say is that the results of an empowered, you should celebrate it, even if they're not perfect. But that's the way how you can install things. And you can just start small. I mean, you can just start tomorrow with a decision that you normally took and ask somebody, can you take that decision today for me?
Love it. Thank you. Very insightful. Talking about empowerment, talking about your team, what are you looking forward to for the future? What is the empowerment you still have in mind that you want to grow yourself? And what is the desired impact that will have?
So in any case, what I want to do, when you start up a company, you have a very prominent position in the company, especially, well, in the beginning, it was Mark and myself, very small, then Veerle came, etc., etc. But at some point, the company becomes bigger, and there's a kind of a natural way of stepping back. And if you are stepping back, that means that others can take over. I don't want to become lazy, but I just want to make sure that other people can lead as well. And the only way in order to do that is to deliberately take a step back. So that's a kind of a gradual thing happening, and I want to continue on that path.
Where are you and Mark taking Zoku? What does good look like in the future, or great look like?
Well, great looks like already what we have today. So we want to continue on the path. I think it's very much important for us to maintain our incredibly high booking scores. Our NPS is very high. We want to maintain it. We want to remain a concept that people really love. We also want to remain a company that people really like to work for. And apart from that, we feel there's a huge opportunity for Zoku to grow. So we are gearing up for our second growth phase that we see happening soon.
I wish you tremendous success with that. And I'm sure that will happen. Is there anything else you want to discuss about empowerment?
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, we know each other already for, I think, 25 years. How you see empowerment, the importance of empowerment grow Yes or no? And how did you see it change? And how did you see leadership change over the last 25 years?
Big questions. And I mean, I see massive changes. If I go back in my own role, responsible for training in one of the new openings of Hilton International in Kansas City, I mean, we lived in a world of defining standards, processes, train people on it, and think we're done, like tick the box. And then we told them, please delight our guests. And it doesn't work like that. I think, and that's why we reverse things. You want to start with what is the brand that you want to build? And how do you make sure that everybody feels empowered to live that brand, the brand purpose, the brand identity, the experience you want to build? And then you go one level deeper and say, so what competence needs to be developed for people to do that? And then only at the end, you look at your processes. So what do we need to add or change in our processes to make that happening consistently? 30 years ago, we were so wrong in our approach, and I'm so happy it's changing. And if I look at Gen Z mainly, and the Alpha generation, I don't think will be much different. They simply won't accept the traditional management, the bossing around. They will tell you to boss somewhere else, or they will go.
I think that's also part of the why it's changing, because people want to be led in a different way than I think 25 years ago.
Totally. And it's an interesting statistic that 75% of leaders think they're super inspiring and empowering, and 82% of that team fundamentally disagree. Yeah. I always think that's shocking.
Yeah, I will check that at Zoku as well. What about me?
Hans, this has been very inspiring conversation. Before we break up, just make it like really small. The single most important tip that you can give to listeners and viewers, like start this tomorrow. What would it be?
Talk less, listen more.
Thank you. With that, I'll also shut up soon. Thank you, everybody, for joining our podcast. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to the next episode of the Relevance Hour podcast. Stay epic. Keep empowering. Thanks, Hans. Amazing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Super job.
This was the Relevance Hour. Don't forget to follow, rate, and share. And keep leading with relevance. See you next time.